and get started with our presentation this evening. I wanted to welcome you so much to our webinar number 4 in the Family Voices series, The Nuts and Bolts of Telemedicine. Today, we will be discussing your family's first telemedicine appointment and further exploring the essentials for a family-centered telemedicine experience. My name is Wendy Howe, and I'm a project manager with Raising Special Kids. On behalf of myself, my co-host, Angelica, as well as Raising Special Kids, we'd like to welcome you this evening. Before we get started in the presentation, just a few housekeeping reminders. For attendance, we like to make sure that we have you logged as in attendance. If you could please, in the chat, go in and type your first and last name, we will appreciate it. Second, if you could please go ahead and turn off your video if it's on, and make sure your microphone is muted so that we're able to maximize connectivity throughout the presentation. And third, we are recording the presentation this evening so that families are able to view this on our website in the future. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We'd like to acknowledge our funders, Health Resources and Services Administration, or HRSA. For more information, please visit hrsa.gov. We always like to start with a quote when we start these presentations. This one comes from Malcolm X this evening. It says, "When I is replaced with we, even illness can become wellness." What that says to me is that when we work together, not just an individual, that we're able to achieve the outcome that it is we're desiring. So today, we will be discussing in webinar number 4, your family's first telemedicine appointment. Here are some things that we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to talk about tele what. There's so many teles. We're going to define them all for you. I'll introduce you to the Fab 4. We're going to discuss family-centered telehealth, patient rights and responsibilities. Before the visit, lots of different things that we're going to go through and make sure that we cover, as well as during the visit, next steps and after the visit. And then finally, we'll watch some fun videos with some bloopers of things not to do and celebrate successes. I will also note we will be going through the entire presentation this evening. At the end will be time for an evaluation that we really hope that you finish for us, as well as questions and answers. So thank you so much for holding your questions until the end. So our learning objectives for this evening. At the conclusion of this evening's webinar, you should be able to, number 1, identify 4 ways to prepare for your telemedicine appointment. Number 2, identify accommodations that your family may need for a successful appointment and how to ask for them. And then finally, number 3, identify one strategy to avoid or improve a difficult telemedicine visit. So let's get started with some of these definitions and clarify the tele-what and digi-what of the telemedicine landscape. You might be thinking, tele-what? These circles will help you better understand. First is telemedicine. It's often used interchangeably with telehealth, but is technically focused on the clinical aspect of care, such as a video appointment with your child's pediatrician or a virtual therapy session for your young adult speech therapist. Next is telehealth. Telehealth is the use of electronic information and telecommunication technologies to support, long-distance clinical health care, patient and professional health-related education, public health, and health administration. Some of the technologies in telehealth include video conferencing, the internet, store and forward imaging, streaming media, terrestrial and wireless communications. And then finally, our third circle is digital and connected health. Digital and connected health is the use of digital, mobile, wearable, or other innovative technologies that facilitate the tracking and monitoring of health status and behavior outside of the clinical encounter, with the goal of fostering more patient-centered, technology-enabled, and insight-driven healthcare. Hopefully this gives you an idea of the landscape and what some of these words really mean. Now I'm going to introduce you to the FAB 4 for a family-centered telemedicine appointment. These are the 4 essentials for a successful appointment. Number 1, are you connected, or do you have a signal that can transmit data? Number 2, you have a device. Without a device, it'd be very difficult to have a telemedicine appointment. Number 3, can you see your provider? Talking about some of the platforms and software needed to be able to have a successful telemedicine appointment. And then finally, number 4, telemedicine appointment. These are tips on how to have a family-centered telemedicine appointment. Today, we are focusing on number 4, your family's first telemedicine appointment. Just a quick reminder to our guests, if I can have everyone mute their microphone, I would sure appreciate it. Thanks so much. So what does family-centered telehealth mean? Family-centered care is when you and your provider are working together for the well-being of your loved one. Family-centered telehealth is a way of providing services through a variety of digital platforms that assures the health and well-being of children and youth with special health care needs and their families through respectful family professional partnerships. Family-centered telehealth can help children with special health care needs and families to access health care, improve experience, reduce stress, improve communication, and improve quality of life and well-being. Now I'm going to go through some of the rights that we have for family-centered telehealth, and then I will follow up with the responsibilities that we also share in family-centered telehealth. First, we'll go through the first set of rights that we have as individuals. First is care via telehealth. You have the right to receive considerate, respectful, and compassionate care through telehealth, regardless of your age, gender, race, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disabilities. That pretty much includes everyone. We all have that right. Second is plans of care. You have the right to disagree with any plan or ask for a review or change to the plan of care in a telehealth visit, just as you would during an in-person visit. An example of that is a doctor suggests a plan. Maybe you're not quite sure that's the right way to go. Just because it's a telehealth appointment doesn't mean you can't disagree. Third, questions. You have the right to ask your provider or the appropriate office staff any question about logging onto and needing assistance with the platform for the appointment. You have the right to share information or symptoms and ask questions during a telehealth visit as you would during an in-person visit. Ask about your symptoms, share what you're feeling and how it's affecting you, and all the questions that you can ask are perfectly okay during that appointment. Fourth, documentation. You have the right to receive same type of information, such as test results or diagnosis, during a telehealth appointment as you would during an in-person visit. This would include blood test results following up on x-rays, MRIs, all of those essential appointments, and the type of diagnosis can be given during a telehealth appointment. The more rights we share as individuals. Real quick before I read these rights, I wanted to make a note on a definition for you. You're going to hear the term accommodation spoken a couple times this evening. And an accommodation, the definition is the adjustments or changes made to a system to make it work for a child or a family's unique needs. Okay, accommodation is something that we're going to spend some time on this evening. Vision, hearing, and speech is a prime example of when we would require an accommodation. You have the right to accommodations for these vision, hearing, and speech to be able to access your telemedicine visit. Remember, it's your job to request accommodations. Please don't assume that the provider will automatically provide an accommodation. It is your job to request. Next, family and support. You have the right to have a family member, a support person, or other individual present with you during your telehealth visit. If you choose to have someone with you in the room for your telehealth appointment, please make sure you introduce them to the provider so that your provider knows who is in the room with you. Next is interpretation. You have the right to access a telehealth visit in your primary language with effective and adequate interpretation services. Remember, it's your job to request. Please don't assume because you speak a different language, it will automatically be provided for you. And then finally, you have the right to stop a telehealth visit if you feel uncomfortable at any time. Maybe you feel like you're not receiving the full attention of the provider in the room. It's okay to stop a visit and request that it be rescheduled. Now that we've reviewed your rights, now let's talk through responsibilities that we as individuals have. It's our responsibility to come with information. Come to the telehealth visit with information and updates about your child's health, such as celebrations in your child's life since last visit. What are they doing that's working really well? Concerns, symptoms, treatments, or hospitalizations since the last visit that your provider may not be aware of. Any medications that they're currently taking. Please bring updates from other providers that your child may be seeing, and any other information you think your providers might need to know. Next responsibility is to ask questions. Ask questions when you do not understand information or the plan of care. Take notes of any questions or concerns you have, or of any orders, plans, or action items discussed during the telehealth visit. If you have a family member or a friend attending the appointment with you, this is a great thing to have them do for you so that you can focus on the appointment and they can take notes with what the plan will be. Next, participation. We have the responsibility to actively participate in the telehealth visit. Offer your child the same opportunity to actively participate in the telehealth visit. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks of ways to make that be successful as well. And then finally, the exam. Assist with any physical examination of your child or demonstrate issues with your child's care, such as a problem with supply or equipment during the telehealth visit. We'll also watch a video on this subject as well. Very quickly, let's talk about some other names for a telemedicine appointment. There are many names for a telemedicine appointment, and you might hear some of these used by your provider when they describe a telemedicine appointment. They might say e-consults, e-visit, virtual visit, telecare, telehealth, virtual care, mHealth, virtual healthcare, an online visit, a video visit, even a phone visit. These are just some names of a telemedicine appointment. There might be terms that are used that are not on this list. So if your provider calls this type of appointment by a different name, please be sure you clarify it with them and ask them if you have any questions. Your family's first telemedicine appointment has 3 different parts that we'll be covering today. We'll cover before the visit, during the visit, and then next steps and after the visit. Right now, we're going to focus on before the visit. Very quickly, a word about insurance. This is one of the most frequently asked questions. Will I have to pay for my telemedicine appointment? Unfortunately, that's not one easy answer. Let's talk about it. So insurance coverage for telehealth is impacted by federal and state laws, as well as insurance company policies. Telehealth policy changes occurring with the COVID-19 environment have been rapidly developing on almost a daily basis. This precludes us from giving a one-size-fits-all to the question about whether or not you have to pay for your telemedicine appointment. And here are some things that you can do to find out. Before you schedule your appointment, take a look at your member cards. Contact your insurer and ask them if telemedicine appointments are covered. Here are some ways that you can ask that question. As you're speaking with them, each call with the insurer is recorded with a reference number. Ask them what that reference number is. If for some reason you need to go back to a conversation you had with the insurer, you can reference that number. Is my policy covered telehealth services? How do you define telehealth services? Meaning, what's included? Does it have to be a live video? Are there any specific restrictions around the service, such as does it have to be a well visit only? Or maybe there's a limit to the number per year that they will cover. Does the service require any special documentation from the doctor that you need to make sure you follow up on that's completed by your doctor? Now with your provider. Your provider's office can help with insurance questions as well. Call your provider's office to schedule the appointment. You can ask them if the appointment is covered by your insurance. If it's not covered, ask how much the appointment costs, and maybe they offer some discounts. Make sure you take advantage of those. If you have any other specific questions regarding your insurance, you're welcome to ask your provider those questions as well. So let's talk about some different ways to schedule your appointment. First and most common way is to call your provider like we always have and schedule it by the phone. Another way they may be offering to schedule telemedicine appointments is to log into their portal and schedule the appointment online. Maybe the provider or practice's website, you can schedule it right there on their website. Sometimes they ask you to fill out an intake form and they call you to schedule the appointment. Oftentimes, larger practices have a central scheduling phone number and they ask you to call that main number to schedule the telemedicine appointment. Specialist changes your yearly appointment to a telemedicine appointment, for an example. They may either have phone or online notification of that change. Assure that your provider has your most current phone number and email. Always important to make sure you update that information and keep them updated should they need to get a hold of you in the future. If you're speaking to someone at the office, ask how long the visit's going to be. Do any forms need to be updated before the visit? How do I see my provider on the day of the appointment? Will you send me a link, a login, a portal? Ask, can I request an interpreter if needed, or any other accommodations I think are important for me and my family? Let's talk about those accommodations. These are crucial that any accommodations are requested when making the appointment and confirmed before the appointment, not asked for on the day of. Let's talk a little bit about what some of these accommodations may look like for a family. An example would be an interpreter, as we have here, or closed captions. Family can check in with the provider's office at least a few days before to confirm that these accommodations have been arranged and will be provided for the appointment. Let's take a look at some family stories now. This is a family. This is their experience with a language translation need. And this is the Santiago family. Booked online a telemedicine appointment. And they were going to see their 8-year-old son's neurology specialist. The day of the appointment arrives. The specialist is there and he begins asking questions. But Mrs. Santiago, who speaks Spanish, expresses to the doctor she does not understand English well and asks if they could please have a translator or interpreter for the visit. Unfortunately, because the visit had already begun and because the interpreters at the clinic must be pre-scheduled for telemedicine appointments, the family is not able to have an interpreter and the provider decides it's best to reschedule the appointment, which will be another month's wait. So frustrating. The interpreter services option was not there when they made the appointment online. So what could they have done in order to do things a little bit differently? Let's talk about the outcome. Here are some recommendations for the Santiago family. We could ask for the translator accommodation in advance before making the appointment. Even if you don't see that option available online, or even if you're not asked, make sure you ask for it or call the office to arrange to make sure that they are there for you. Ask the provider or specialist if they have a translator available as the appointment's beginning, if for some reason we forget to ask when we make the appointment. Ask the insurance provider if your coverage includes translator service and if it has any additional cost. Seek within the community an organization that offers services to families for assistance in obtaining translation services. There's a number of organizations. I know at Raising Special Kids, we'd be able to help you with that. Let's talk about another family story. This is the family's experience with a hearing accommodation or interpretation. Families who have children or themselves who are deaf or hard of hearing may need interpretation accommodations to have a successful telemedicine appointment. The law requires medical providers to provide effective communication under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. If you or your loved one needs an accommodation for your telemedicine visit, here's what we need to do. Please notify your provider at the time of scheduling your appointment. There are a few ways providers can utilize technology and sign language interpreters for a telemedicine appointment. Let's take a look. Here's an outcome. This is a video that I'm going to show you about how an ASL and interpreter services may be utilized in a telemedicine appointment. We're just going to watch a portion of it.
Accessible ways to telehealth with your doctor. Number 1, you can see your doctor and the interpreter on the same screen. Captioning is available if you need it. Number 2, you can see the captions or cart on the same screen with your doctor. Number 3, you have 2 screens, one to see the captions and/or the interpreter, and a second screen to see the doctor. Number 4, if you are not able to use number 1 through 3, you can use VRS or IPCTS to call your doctor. Keep in mind, your doctor cannot force this option on you if number 1 through 3 are available. Instruct your doctor what kind of access, which of the 4 ways, fits your needs. Your doctor should accommodate your needs. Out of all 4 options, you and your doctor should also be able to type to each other using a chat feature. This way you can catch any misunderstandings. Typing is a good backup if there are problems with the audio and video. Your doctor should know how to connect with you on telehealth. Your doctor also should send you instructions with the link so you know how to connect. The doctor is responsible for giving this information to the interpreter or captioner.
Great.
When you start the telehealth appointment with your doctor,
Okay. Awesome.
now
Let's go ahead and move on to our next little video. Sometimes an interpreter may not show up for the appointment. We're lucky we have interpreters today. However, sometimes things come up and they're not able to be there. This oftentimes puts the family and the provider in a pinch without translation services. Here's a backup option if for some reason that occurs. We're going to take a look at what Google Translate and Zoom offer.
Conversation mode. So again, it's very similar. Up at the top, you've got the ability to choose your language on the left. That's what it's going to detect there. And then it's going to be the translation language on the right. Now there's this little thing that's right in the middle that says conversation that has 2 little people, 2 icons there. You can click that and it's automatically going to start translating in English. And then it's going to create the Spanish translation underneath. And as soon as I stop talking or tap that on the bottom side, it's going to go ahead and translate that for me.
Puede hacer clic en eso y automáticamente comenzará a traducir en
So I didn't even have to click it as soon as I quit talking.
Great. So those are really awesome to know about, just in case for some reason we don't have an interpreter show. Couple other things that I wanted to make sure that you knew about. For individuals who use American Sign Language, there's 2 apps that I'd like to mention. They are EMI, Timmy, and @Ava. Okay. @Ava has live captioning, and TEMI records what's being said and transcribes the words. And we actually learned about these particular apps from a young individual who had a positive experience with their telemedicine appointment utilizing these technologies. So that's awesome.
Okay, so I'm
Okay, great. Now it's time. It's time for our appointment. You've successfully scheduled a telemedicine appointment for you or the loved one. So let's go ahead and go through, make sure we have everything set up before the visit. 4 things we need to remember. This space. Are you in a reduced noise environment? Is it a confidential area where you can speak freely and not worry about other people around you? Of course, we have to have internet and make sure it's well lit. Equipment. Need to make sure we have the proper equipment. Teleready device, a platform or a portal that the provider is using, pen and paper, make sure we can take notes. Other medical equipment may be required, a scale or a flashlight. We'll talk about those in a minute. Other information we're going to bring with us, any celebrations we want to talk to the provider about, observations we've had, a list of medication, and other provider updates. And then finally, our participants. We need to prepare our child or young adult and any other attendees who are going to be on the appointment with us about what to expect and their list of questions. So before the visit in this space, reduced noise has less distractions so that you can hear your provider clearly and they can hear you clearly. Provide a private or confidential area in a place where others won't hear your conversation. A well-lit area, enough light so that the provider can examine things like your skin or body parts that need to be examined. A reliable internet connection. Let's look at this information a little bit more. Again, with our Fab4 review, these were the 4 essentials for a family-centered telemedicine appointment. In webinar number 1, we reviewed the topic, are you connected? Or do you have a reliable internet connection for the telemedicine visit? 3 and 4, let's focus on number 1. Here's a flow chart, and this can help you determine if you are connected and if your connection speed will be fast enough for a telemedicine appointment. I'm going to reference the website fast.com. That's FAST.com. If your speed is greater than 15 megabits per second, you're good to go. If your speed is less than 15 megabits per second, you may still be able to have your telemedicine visit. However, it may be unstable or too slow at times. So take a look at fast.com and see what your speed is. Our second thing to review before the visit is our equipment. Obviously, we need a device with a camera and a microphone. Instructions of the link to see your provider. Sometimes they use specific apps that they need you to install before the appointment. A notepad, paper, pen, shared plan of care. Ask your provider if they're going to need the following equipment before the appointment: a thermometer, a scale, blood pressure monitor, sometimes a flashlight. If you do not have access to this type of equipment, mention it when you are making the appointment, and your provider will be able to provide it for you. Back to our Fab 4 review. We've covered devices in the second specific webinar. Now we're going to dive into, do you have a device, another time. We need to see if your device is tele-ready. Let's check 3 things to make sure what it is we're going to need to be successful. We're going to need a working computer, tablet, or a mobile device. We specifically need a running desktop, computer, laptop, tablet, smartphone with a current operating system as well. Number 2, a microphone. Most mobile devices and computers have a built-in microphone, and that should work fine. If your device does not have one, you will need a separate microphone. Earbuds and headphones can also be used if they contain a microphone. Third is a camera. Like microphones, many devices already have an integrated camera. However, if you're using a desktop computer or an older laptop, you may not have a built-in webcam. Best to check it out. Now we have 3 green checks. That means our device is tele-ready. Back to our Fab 4 review. We researched connection. We researched our device. Now we're going to take a look at number 3. Can you see your provider? Here are 4 keys being able to see our provider: email, text, log in, and call your provider. Before the visit information. These are things to gather before our visit. Utilizing a tool like this Family Voices worksheet for preparing for a successful telehealth visit can help you prepare. This is an awesome link that we will have on our website and available for download as well for you. Some more before the visit information. Let's go through a couple parts of these forms here. This is a great way to list celebrations, concerns, or challenges since your child's last visit. What's working well and what's not working so well? What changes or observations with your child's health, mood, or daily life do you see? A list of medications, supplies, and medical equipment. Updates from other providers, therapists, or even the schools are listed here. Finally, the 4th, before the visit, the participants. Let's reference this worksheet as a guide. Who will attend the visit? Who will be virtual? And who will be there with you in person? If your child wants to share and be involved in the telehealth visit, we need to talk to them about what's appropriate. Maybe a social story with them, or we can role play with them. Show them some videos of some telehealth appointments. And in this space that they'll be joining you, provide a space and items that will help them feel comfortable. We'll talk about those in just a moment. We went through in length before the visit, and now let's talk about during the visit. During the visit, your child's healthcare provider will need your help with your child's exam. You may be asked to take your child's vital signs like blood pressure or temperature, to gently push on your child's stomach as instructed by the provider, perform other procedures as requested. Make sure you're holding your phone or computer camera to areas on your child's body that need to be examined so your provider can see them well. Keep in mind, you do have the right to disclose cultural or religious restrictions that would impact your ability to provide access to the child's body. Share that. If the doctor is using a secure platform, then your information will be secure. Let's take a look at a video.
As a parent, you know there's nothing more important than your child's health. At Children's Hospital Colorado, we're making it easier and more convenient to connect you and your child to the right care when and where you need it. Children's Hospital Colorado puts you face-to-face, one-on-one with your provider or care specialist through live video through your PC, laptop, tablet, or even your smartphone. It's the same pediatric expertise and personalized experience that you expect from Children's Hospital Colorado, just from the comfort and convenience of your own home.
Great. As you can see from the video, the dad was pressing on his son's stomach where his bandages were, and the mom was helping move her child's wrist for the provider. So some tips for during the visit for some younger ones. Provide a snack. We all know how that seems to work well for kiddos, is to provide some yummy or their favorite snacks. Avoid scheduling an appointment at nap time. Who knows what disaster could occur if we did that? Make sure it's a comfortable location for the child, somewhere where they really feel good at. Have their favorite toys available. And again, snack and drink are always important. Also keep in mind that having these items available for your child will work well to keep them occupied should you and the provider be having a conversation on the side. Maybe for some older children, maybe they could eat before the appointment. Sometimes having a snack there is okay too. Find a comfortable location for that young one, a room, couch. What item would make them feel comfortable? Sometimes they like to have a hat on. Is there a specific sweater or blanket that they like on them? And of course, have water or drink nearby. Now let's take a look at a video. This is a video that shares some tips for a telemedicine appointment that allows an individual with autism to be comfortable in their environment during a telemedicine appointment.
Person, you need to move them 2 feet back from the camera in order for everyone to fit comfortably in the frame. Although, to be honest, sometimes you need to smush together. Now, if you've got a cooperative child, being on the lap can be very helpful. But sometimes they're a little bit more impulsive. So the screen will need to be set so that, the camera will need to be set a little farther back to give them room to roam or to play. And this is another example.
You see him in the back?
I can. That's probably why I'm doing it, is so we can have a great example of how you guys can work with me while he's still doing his own thing.
Okay, good.
So Rosie, you can come back in the frame.
There we go. We got both of us. You got Keanu. Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. And sometimes you have to wonder how much space is enough. Come on. Howdy, folks. And eventually he does come back. But sometimes a wider frame is important. And this is also tells you a lot about the relationship of the people you may be working with, whether they're oppositional or depressed. So let's move.
Okay, great. So those are some good examples. And again, this, not necessarily all of those will work for you, but those are just some ideas of them, some things to try. Okay, we talked about before the visit, during the visit. Now next steps, and after the visit. At the end of your visit, you and your healthcare provider can discuss the diagnosis and the treatment plan. Pause and make sure you understand and are comfortable with the plan. If you're not sure of something, please ask the questions right then of your provider. Again, ask those questions. Does the plan meet the needs of your family? You're able to schedule any follow-up appointments, testing, labs, discuss all of those things. Who's taking care of the orders? Where are they being sent to? And how about prescription refills? What referrals might be needed, and who's going to make the referrals for you? And thinking forward about your next telemedicine visit, maybe you need a longer time for telemedicine, or maybe it went so well you need a shorter time. You can communicate what accommodations could be made for that next visit to be successful. Here's an after the visit tip. Once you hang up the phone or disconnect the computer or device, we're in the after the visit section. If you have questions or concerns after your visit has ended, contact your healthcare provider's office. They should be able to help you out. Okay, some fun stuff now. Let's take a look at some videos. We call them bloopers, and see if we can learn from some mistakes that are made by other people. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm supposed to be doing a televideo at 2 o'clock. It's like 6 minutes after, and it's to Mariposa. I'm not even sure exactly where they are, but I can tell you that they are always late. That's the one thing I know as to where they are. So I don't know. I may bail after another 5. Yeah.
Dr. Goldblum, actually,
Yeah.
Mariposa can see you. You're on their camera, and they can hear you.
Hi, Dr. Goldblum here. You must be Ken. No, you must be Phil. Hi, Phil. I'm Dr. David Goldblum, and I'm your consultant today on televideo. Can you hear me? Can you see me? I'm right here. Right? You got it? Okay, good. Okay, let's get going.
Okay, wow. I think we learned a couple things from that one. And then in this same video, I'm going to fast forward and I'm going to show you another one here.
Right. Well, look, Phil. Let me try to summarize for you what I think is going on in what you've told me. Ever since that incident in the coal mine, you've been struggling with a depression. I think that has not been adequately diagnosed, or treated. So I think what we need to do is think about a treatment plan that could help you to... just sit tight for 1 second. Dr. Goldblum? Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Well, I obviously can't see the car when it's up on the hoist, so you tell me if the tires look bad. I got them last season. Look, I'm in the middle of something quite important, okay?
Okay, so I think those are obvious as well. Let's take a look at a couple of things. All right, so we saw a number of things not to do, right? So what we should do is have a snack or eat before your telemedicine appointment. Don't eat while you're on camera or for your appointment. How about the cell phone? Do make sure you turn off your phone ringer or any other distractions around you. Having side conversations or taking calls while you're in the appointment, this is not respectful. All right. Got a couple more for you to watch here. One more on this screen. and then we'll talk about it briefly.
Hello there, I'm Dr. David Goldblum. You may be going through your first experience with televideo, and I want to welcome you to the new technology. Just as long as you can see me clearly, then it's going to be as if I'm right here in the office with you. I heard you were having a little trouble seeing me before, but I hope that this way you get a better sense at least of what I look like and how I'm reacting to what it is you're telling me.
Okay. So how about some do's and don'ts on this one? Let's take a look at some examples here. So obviously we want to be in a reduced noise environment, right? Not doing it in a moving car. That's really important not to do. How about make sure your face is centered and entirely in the camera view? Don't cut your head off or have an extreme close-up of your face with the camera. That's going to be tough for the provider to see you. Okay. Great. Very quickly, we're going to look through a provider perspective and benefits for parents on telemedicine.
Telehealth is really an example of patient-centered care where pediatric subspecialists provide care to those families in the family's home community. So there are a number of ways that the telehealth visit can be conducted. The most common way is for that family to come into our community clinic in their area and then video conference with us in Gainesville. And we've also had visits where the families will be at home and can video conference with us from the comfort of their own home. Some of the services that are currently
Okay. That's a great option. If your provider offers that option where you can go into the office and have the telemedicine appointment there where all of the blood pressure and scale instruments are there, that's a great thing to take advantage of. Let's just fast forward very quickly up to this point here. I want to show you this portion here.
children don't have to miss school. And when you consider that many of our children also have special needs, maybe wheelchair bound, traveling is very difficult. So if it wasn't for these visits, many of these children wouldn't have access to care. These telehealth visits allow us to catch small problems before they become big ones.
That's a really big point to make. And as you can see from the provider's perspective and the benefits that it lists for the family, telemedicine can be very helpful and make a parent and provider's job easier in getting care for a child, especially those with special health care needs.
Telehealth.
Okay, great. So a successful appointment in teletherapy. Let's take a look at this one very quickly.
Yeah, are you ready for our exercises?
Yeah.
Okay, let me show you the first one we're gonna do. What animal do you see up here?
The crab.
The crab. Let's do our crab walks. Ready? Let's do 10 crab walks. Belly up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good work.
Awesome. So not only can we do urgent visits or sick visits or well visits, we can also do therapy visits through teletherapy. That's so awesome. All right. So just as we began the presentation with a quote, we're going to end with one as well. And that's all, folks, from Bugs Bunny. Awesome. So after watching this presentation, if you feel like you need some assistance, please reach out to the nearest Family Voices office in your state. Here in Arizona, it's Raising Special Kids. We have our phone number listed of 800-237-3007. Our website is raisingspecialkids.org. We encourage you to visit us soon. At this point in time, I'm going to ask for the recording to go ahead and be stopped by my co-host. And she